Hello and welcome to this video on dplyr. Dplyr is a language of data manipulation which has various action verbs like select, arrange, filter, mutate, and summarize. And this video is about the right join. Let's have a very quick refresher of the right-hand join. Let's say we got two tables which are identified by the patient ID as a unique key. We can call one as a left table, the other as a right table. And in the join table, the final output would contain all the rows from the right hand side and only the matching ones from the left table. So let's see, the first row, patient ID 001 exists on the right table, so of course it has to be in the final output. So we get the data. Now looking at the left table, we find a match P001 and then we copy the remaining data from the left table as well. Now let's go to the next line. Patient 002 exists on both the tables, so we'll first get the right hand side table information, and then we would find the matching values for patient 002 on the left table as well. Now what happens when we go to the next line? The next line, P004, exists only on the right hand side. So we will put that information in our final output table. Because we don't find a match on the left side for this record, we just put some blanks or NA there. Now everything from the right hand side table has been put in. Now what happens to this record P003, which exists only on the left side table? Now this won't be copied in because we don't have a match for this in the right table. Let's do a practical demonstration of the right hand join. We'll be using the package dplyr. Now let's create some dummy data. We'll be using the first data set D1, D2, D3, and D4. So this represents some dummy data for some patients. So the patient ID, age, and the weight of the patient. And in the second data set, D2, we have the patient ID and the SBP and DBP, which represents the blood pressure readings. And in the third data set, we have the patient ID and the heart rate of the patient. And in the last table, we have the PAT ID and the outcome of the patient. So if you notice all the four tables or data frames, we have different IDs there. In the first table, we have patient ID as the key. Second table also patient ID. Third table also has patient ID, but the fourth table has PAT ID as the key. Okay, so let's try and do a right-hand join using the dplyr library or dplyr package. Here is the syntax. So using the dplyr package, using the right_join command, we are trying to join the first two tables, the D1 and D2. And if you look at the data, in both the cases, we have patient ID as the key in D1 as well as in D2. So we can say by equals patient ID. And notice that D2 is a right-hand side table for us. So everything from D2 would actually be in the final table. So if you look at that, the patient IDs from the right side table, which is D2, are in there. Now let's do a right join again, but this time we'll be using the pipe syntax. So using the pipe, we'll actually send the data of one command to another. So here is the command. So the first table is the D1 table, and then using the pipe symbol, we would say dplyr right join, and the second table is D2. So D2 is the right table, right hand side table, and by equals patient ID as per normal as we did in the earlier syntax. And we'll get exactly the same result. Everything from the right hand side table, which is D2, are in there. So what if we need to join more than two tables? We can use exactly the same command and then pass it to as many tables as we want. So D1 is the first table, and then we do a right join with the D2, and then we do another right join with D3, and then finally we do another right join with D4. Notice that syntax is slightly different. So C equals patient ID equals PAT ID. The reason is that in the D1, we have patient ID as the key. And in the last one, the D4, we have the PAT ID as the key. So we have to give this syntax. And remember, in this case, D4 or the last table is our right hand side table. So everything from the right hand side table, which is D4 in this case, is in there. So D1, D2, D3 are the left side tables, and D4 is the right hand side table. So this is it. So for the sake of illustration, let's see the same tables again. So these are the 4 tables which we have. Let's call them as D1, D2, D3 and D4. And here is the script which we used in the previous example. We used 4 data frames, D1, D2, D3 and D4. And as a thumb rule, remember, whichever is the last table would have all its rows present in the final output. So in this case, it's D4, which is on the right hand side. And if you look at the final output which we got, we can notice that whatever was in D4, all the rows from D4 are present in the final output, and only the matching information or the matching values from other tables like D1, D2, D3 are present in the final output. I hope you found this information useful and practical. Thank you very much for watching this series of dplyr, and I'll see you in the next one.